Hello, welcome everyone to another Empires and Puzzles books interview. My name is Jeff, otherwise known as JekylandHyde in game and Empires and Puzzles books everywhere else. We have a nominated interview today with JFosss from the Benevolent Merceneries Alliance. So Dan Pineda, if I'm saying that correctly, nominated you for a variety of reasons, which we'll get into. But you're tuning in today from Arkansas, in the U.S.?
I am Fayetteville.
Okay, excellent. So pleasure to meet you. And it's Justin's your first name?
Yes, nice to meet you as well.
All right, excellent. So you've been nominated for a couple things. Dan was talking about your experience in beta, and that you're a very consistent competitor in the challenge event. So we're definitely going to be talking about your challenge event. He indicated you're excellent in War and Titan. He's indicated that you go 6 for 6 in all wars. Is that accurate?
That's exaggerated a little bit. I am pretty consistent, but we're also not a top tier alliance, so I'm not getting the full meta teams that
Sure.
a lot of others are getting.
Sure. Well, I mean, we all deal with RNG, so no matter what level you're at, if you're consistently putting up 6 one-shots, that's pretty stellar.
It's probably about 5.2 to 5.3, maybe 5.4 overall.
All right. Excellent. All right. So let's get in and, well, before I forget, so I always ask about the player name. So where does JFosss come from?
My first initial and part of my last name.
Gotcha. I was going to guess that when you said Justin. So, all right, JFosss. Do you use this in other games, or is this an Empires and Puzzles moniker?
Some variant of it is also my PlayStation ID and was my PokerStars ID before it got shut down in the United States.
All righty. Good to know. So, well, let's jump in and just start pulling things apart here. So you have been in the top 10 in the rare challenge events 5 times.
Yes.
But I guess much to your chagrin, and I think anybody who has competed for the top 10 has been there, you have at least once been 11th, correct?
And a 12th.
And a 12th. Yeah, that.
The very first time I tried, it was Avalon. So Avalon's a little different anyway, because you're using green instead of blue. Mm-hmm. And I was very disappointed. I got 11th and then didn't try again for a couple months. And I keep track of how many flasks I use. I don't just burn through and at the end say I did it in 5 in a couple hours. And I got 11th with 18. And I was disappointed at the time, but after I talked to other players that had done it, I realized that wasn't terrible for first attempt. And then the next time I got it using a few more.
Nice. Yeah, that burn from being bumped from the top 10, we have all felt it. So we've been there. I think the only thing that hurt worse from that is the one time that I carried first for an entire weekend in rare, and then Keon Lee Waffles bumped me, and then him and I went back and forth all day Sunday, and I could just not catch him. And
was that Avalon 2 or is that Teltalk?
That is a great question. Which event was that? I can tell you.
It'd be funny if that was the very same one that we're talking about.
It was Teltalk.
Okay.
November of last year. Good old Keon, known for bumping people from challenge events. But let's go in and talk about. I have your team here. This is your primary team. As we know, if you're competing in the rare events, you're probably using ice because of Nordry and Gunner. But as you mentioned, at least Avalon, we got to use nature. So let's look at your team here. So we got Costume Gunner for the shared damage defense down. And you're using Ulmer Costume for the attack up.
Yep.
And Nordry for the elemental defense down. And I think that is almost where you and I diverge a bit. Now, you do have a Costume Carol. I use that. But then you have Gato. Can you talk to me a little bit about where does Gato fit into this team for you?
Probably should be replaced with another Carl or maybe even a Chick Jr. My heroes that I've pulled have been disproportionate in terms of certain classes, and I've been looking at switching it around and haven't done it yet. I used to not burn the mana pots beforehand on the gambles. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? You have some blues, you burn the mana pots, and then basically hope it clears the first wave. I used to not do that, so there'd be a lot of times where Gato, at least on the early stages, could clear that one enemy with higher single target damage. But I probably should look at that. And he has all of them are spec for attack, even Costume Gunner
Sure.
on the
Sure.
talent grid. So that helps. But especially with green coming too, I probably should relook because, you know, Whacker is a factor. That new, it sounds like a zombie name. There's a couple that have shaken it up a little bit with, I think, a
Sure.
3-star.
From the Magic Tower, there's Dulgoon or whatever, who is shared damage for green now.
Yeah. I didn't get him, unfortunately.
Yeah, I look at the teams in the top 100 all the time in the challenge events, and I've seen a lot of Gatos. And just because the way I build teams, I was hoping you were going to give me some big secret that I was missing on Gato. I could see him being a benefit because every now and then depending on how tiles fall, you end up with one enemy sitting there. So having a sniper, I could see being beneficial, but I definitely look more for the spread out attack. But the thing that is worth noting here is you have been in the top 10 5 times. So for folks that are watching this, you have one maxed 2-star troop, and the rest are in the middle range, which is decent. You are blasted on emblems on all of them. And Gato might be able to be replaced with somebody who's putting more attack output to multiple things. But the point is that you're placing well because of the consistency with tile play and farming those boards.
Yeah, and the big thing would be having, like you said, one of the multi-hitters. And the only two I ever see in that spot are the variants of Carl and Chick Jr., because that's who you're giving the mana pots to at the very end when you're trying to complete it in 1 or 2 moves. But I guess practice is the big thing. Obviously, you've had like Kevrox and Kian Lee and they have reached tiers that I, at this point, cannot yet reach. But like anything, you start out and maybe you go for 1,000 and then, maybe 500 the next time and move up. And you'll see it faster and faster and faster and faster and faster until the point where, you're able to see it within a few seconds and execute.
Now competing in rare for a lot of people is the entranceway into starting to compete in the challenge events, because of the cost is relatively low as far as building the known team, getting the troops there, getting the emblems on them. It's not a huge investment that 4s and definitely not that 5 stars would be. But when people get into competing in challenge events, then they start to kick back a little bit on the 3 stars because of the need to farm for chests, like especially on the early stages. So how do you handle that?
In terms of going for score or in terms of requiring? So ever since, probably since February of 2020, whatever my best score is for every single stage on all 3 tiers, I write down or type in a spreadsheet like 17 seconds to move, average combo for blue.
Right.
And the score. And when I started, I didn't really know what I was doing, so that was a good baseline. But yeah, for rare, especially with the 10 stage ones, that's why I don't like the 10 stage ones very much, is that it seems that you're pretty much farming to move chest, basically, to get top 10. So or maybe if you get like a huge combo for like a 7 or 8 on the first wave and you get a chest second wave, then you wasted time because you almost never get the. But yeah, that's definitely a huge disadvantage of the rare, is that, especially on the 10 stage events, it's 2 move chest is what you want. And now sometimes on the later ones, you might be able to get like a 1 move 10 no chest, and if you play quickly, you can go through. But in some of those ones where I missed it and I look back and I'm like, my worst stage is a 1 move 13 combo no chest on stage 10. Those are definitely the frustrating ones.
Sure.
And I have done I've never pushed as high in some of the other ones, but I have done like the legendaries as well, like the top 100. Nothing
Right.
insane. That is kind of I can see why the appeal is there, honestly, compared to rare.
Yeah, I find legendary easier if you have the heroes to do it. It's not as reliant on finding those chests, and it's easier to build serious power, obviously, with 5 stars, even though you're facing stronger enemies. And there's a rhythm, I think, to 5 stars that makes more sense to me. Epic is the worst for me. That rhythm of epic does not work for me. The rhythm of the pace of the boards works for me for 3s and 5s. The other big advantage of 5 stars is you can use heavy weapons, so it's easy to blow things up. The what's your next goal for challenge events?
Well, I haven't gone back in a while. I keep doing the 1,500 every month, and I'll probably get back in it eventually on one of the old ones. I prefer the 15 stagers because I feel like you don't have to farm for 2 move chests
Right.
every time, and there's a little bit of leeway. And I'm also looking forward to the upcoming Alliance event because at least in puzzle combat and in beta, there are no suspicious chests. So that's a whole new dynamic in terms of, I think is better, is you're not just sitting there trying to get chest over and over again. You might actually be able to stand on just your board
Right.
play instead of chest.
Well, actually, you know what? That'll be an interesting segue to something because you are a beta player, so you're getting to see some things. And I don't want you to get you in trouble, but my understanding is you can talk about what's in beta, right? You just can't show screenshots or videos or anything. Is that accurate? All right. So with this new upcoming event, that's going to be an alliance. It's sort of like an alliance challenge event, is how I'm imagining it, right?
Yep.
So super important question that's been on my mind since they announced this thing. Is it forge level weapons only, or are they allowing Hunter Lodge weapons?
What I've seen so far, and I didn't test Legendary, but I did play Legendary in the other game that SG makes, is that I didn't notice any big ones. Now, that doesn't mean it can't change, and I'm kind of taking a leap there, but basically it's what it appears to me so far is you have rare, epic, and legendary 10 stage as you normally would, except you combine it all into one score.
Right, it's an alliance score. So then once that, and you have to get past each stage to open up the next one. Like you have to complete a certain amount of points as an alliance for rare to be able to open epic.
Yeah, the thresholds are relatively low though.
Okay.
At least from what I can tell, like 2 or 3 people completing it will probably get you to the second tier. And if you're in an active alliance where everybody's doing it, unlocking the third tier won't be an issue.
All right. So the problem's not going to be opening. The problem is going to be competing at the highest levels where everybody's going to be insane with farming. Does it work? So another important question, does it work on regular world energy, like the regular challenge event, or does it have its own world energy? Like, is it limited like the Ninja Tower and the Magic Tower?
I believe it's world energy, but I'd have to double check again. I might be able to open it real quick if you.
That's all right. We're casual here, but yeah, because we're back to people gem flasking then, right? And just flask farming, if you want to call it that.
But the no serious chests or suspicious chests will, I think, cut down on that a bit because you're not farming 5 flasks just to get one attempt at one with a chest. And you get your good board and you're good to.
Sure.
Unless you're going for very, very high.
Yeah. So you're just starting, fleeing, waiting for that right board. And then that's the annoying thing with the challenge events is you wait for that chest and then suddenly after starting and fleeing 20 boards, you have to suddenly be perfect.
Yeah.
It's like you're mind numb at that point and now you got to be on. All right. So let's switch gear. Well, what's your first impression of that event? Like, are you excited about it or are you sort of like, meh?
I'm excited about it. I've always, especially mostly doing rare, been intrigued of what would happen if you take the chest out. I don't see how it's profitable from their standpoint, and I don't see for casual players how it's good because can't farm the free summons all weekend like you can with like Teltalk or something. But in terms of fairness, I kind of like that. better. I mean, I don't. Like we both hinted at, farming to a 2 chest board or a 3 chest board all weekend. I think there's a slightly better way, and I think limiting chest will make it better. So
All
I'm
right.
looking forward to it.
Nice. All right. Well, I appreciate your insight into that. Any word on the other 2 challenge events that are supposed to be coming out? Have you seen or heard anything in beta about those?
Uh, I think we were all a bit surprised a couple days ago, and they're like, "Hey, here's some pretty good heroes that we're gonna buff and change the order around of the events." And I haven't seen anything communicated. I haven't checked beta today, and sometimes they do updates today in the morning or actually overnight. But I would assume they're pushing events into those spots they view as more profitable,
Sure. Of
or
course.
they're waiting for a Finley costume or Panther, that to come out.
The dollars, dollars, dollars.
Yeah.
All right. So let's switch gears and talk about another area of the game that you really excel in. So this Mythic Titan business. So you've been in the top 100 6 of the 10 times, and you have no gazelle. And top 100 on 4 or 5 color. Wait, where am I at?
You're good. 6 of 10 overall, but I've missed one color. There's one color I haven't got.
Okay, gotcha. I'm understanding your note there now.
The purple one. And the only reason I put the no gazelle in there was that the last time, that's the Titan that the second time around it raised defensive stacks if you passed attack, and gazelle didn't count as plus attack. So like 3 people in the top 100 didn't have
gazelle. Yeah.
I'm told that's fixed for the next time.
I've heard that was fixed too. Now, in general, for a Dark Titan, you don't use Ranveer or Wu?
It depends. I've tried both. My highest overall has been mono yellow. Sometimes for the Mythic Titans, just the lockdown of the silence, so you don't have to worry about your tiles getting ruined. Mm-hmm. I've noticed that one of the mistakes I make is that, and I see this when I don't run a healer, or I'm not running Mickey or something that can overwrite the Titan when he messes up the tiles, is that I'll over rotate the board. Like, and I'm sure you've seen it where like someone's doing a big Titan hit and they just spend like 15 seconds, tornado, 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 and they're not really going anywhere and they're wasting items. But yeah, I've tried both. I think my best for the Mythic was with Mickey, but my best in terms of just day-to-day play for yellow has been with Ranveer. There's also a mental aspect of Ranveer that, and I know you've talked about it a lot, that like you get that very first opening sequence and you use 2 or 3 scrolls and 30 yellow go up and 3 of the 30. It's just sort of like a mental thing in a 2.5 minute battle that I'm a little
wary. I actually, and you know, this might be to your chagrin here, but I actually still prefer Ranveer over Gazelle for the reason that I can still use an attack up banner. So the first time I like used Gazelle, I didn't really know what I was doing or how to use the hero, and I'm like, I wasted so many Titan banners, and I'm like, I went back and looked at the videos. I'm like, wait, she takes that away. So she gives that attack up. And Ranveer and Wound, I have a video on there comparing the math over the long haul. They're actually comparable to Mickey. It's just because the increased attack is so huge, but the miss rate is also significant. But it averages out. I think Mickey is slightly better overall. I think the place that Mickey excels is that he silences the Titan, so they don't do bad things to you for a bit. And the place that Ranveer and Wu excel, which isn't that significant on Titans, is they also increase the attack damage of the specials. Mickey and Tarlac are only doing tile damage increases. But so do you have any tips or suggestions to people on how you're attacking the Mythic Titan? Like, not just, I mean, we have an idea of which heroes go in, and we'll look at those teams in a moment. But besides putting in the, you know, attack ups and defense downs and elemental defense downs and all that stuff, actually hitting the board, like, what's your strategy going into it?
Yeah, I'll throw out just a lot of little things that aren't individually that big, but I think cumulatively are pretty big. And most of them are obvious, is that I invest in the heroes, right, that I have. I have Tarlac at 18. I have Ratatasker. I have Mickey. I don't have emblems on Ranveer, but investing in them. Another one would be not over rotating the board. I see this a lot, especially when people don't have the healer because they don't have the safety net. They have to get the stuns basically, right? Or run that, what's the little red potion from the Hunter's Lodge? Panacea?
Yeah.
So not over rotating. It doesn't seem, at least I haven't seen that he can. Well, I don't want to say it doesn't. I haven't seen him block an empty slot. In other words, when he locks down the items. So like, if you are trying to rotate the board, a lot of people just match their 5 hurricanes or their 5 tornadoes first. Whereas if you alternate, then like you always have that slot available, if that makes sense. Like you can always still rotate the board. If you use all 5, you can lock that one out, then you can't rotate the board anymore.
All right, I got you.
Using scrolls, I think a lot of people just hit all 5 and their board dies 45 seconds in, and then, you know, it's over. It's kind of a hard thing. It's sort of like the challenge events. It's one of those things you see more than it's easier to describe. But like the most extreme example I would say is like if you're running blue against the red Titan and you have 1 blue tile in each corner, you know, to get your, I call them through diamonds. You basically want the diamond to pop on the scroll. The odds of you getting that diamond to pop on the scroll are really, really small. Like I like them in little clusters. I also don't use scrolls when my weak spots are on the edge, which can screw up your start a lot. Like if you have your first 3 spots rotating weak spots on the edge, then he locks your scrolls, then you're 45 seconds in panicking, and then Ranveer misses, and then it just
The phone gets thrown.
Yeah. Trying to think if there's anything else. The order of popping diamonds, obviously a big part of getting those big scores is getting the off-color diamonds so your board can keep flowing. And you know, it's always great to get the strong color diamond, but if you only have 4 or 5 on the board, you might want to save, you might want to use a scroll, you might want to pop an off color, and sort of build the board back up. It's a high variance thing. So like, you know, the difference between 20 and 100 is, you know, so small that I don't think there's any secret like huge thing. I think there's a bunch of little things, and I do think learning from the challenge events helps because you see the board faster. And but there are gatekeeper heroes, and you need. I mean, we both know you need certain heroes to be competitive in those things.
Sure. Well, let's talk about the heroes. So I have your teams up here. I got the ice team, and you got some staples on there that are super important. Frida and Mickey, Sarnia for the defense down, Jot for the big tile boost. Did you get Zenobia?
I did not. No, I did. My roster is very red and yellow depleted, so I was actually looking forward to that one. I wanted the healer you got as well. I did 94 and I got 2 Akrod. So I did not.
Yeah, I didn't get Zenobia either, and I'm quite annoyed just because she's the first tile booster that I missed out on. I got Jot, Karnov, and Ratatoskar, but hopefully she'll pop at some point. Now, I find it interesting. You have Ariel on this team. Now, do you have her on there specifically for Mythic Titans because of the length of the event and keeping healing going and the mana boost, or do you use her on your daily Titans too?
It depends. If I'm bringing in bigger items, then I'll put in, I think my highest tile damage is still Vela. I mean, well, I'm factoring in the crit chance, the 10 little baby crit chance too. Yep. Actually thinking about that, I should probably switch those to Lepus. But yeah, it depends. I think for these long fights, a big part of it is mental. And I noticed I go a few seconds slower when I'm so worried about the stun and I believe my aerial is spec for attack as well. I think I could be mistaken, but yeah, there could be an argument made for another higher tile damage person in there for sure.
All right. Well, I mean, obviously what you're doing is working because you're putting up some monster scores. So now looking at your nature team, so Tarlac and Ratatoskr we talked about. You're using Phileas Fogg for the elemental defense down. And then one of the heroes that always eludes me, Gregorian, for that important critical chance. Congratulations on that. And then Francine, I assume she's there for your tile damage?
Yeah, and that's obviously just for the Mythic team. I'd have a defense down in there for the regular, and Francine and Fog are just my highest. So you basically have 3 of the 4 people who can do something. And I guess you could put Heimdall in there, count him as someone who could do something, but you should probably just use a banner on the Mythic, right?
Sure.
So those 3 are the big key. Those 3 heroes, that Greg, Rat, and Tarlac.
Sure. And you haven't played around with 3-star costume Brienne?
I have, and I've played around with Melia, I think it is.
Yeah.
The yellow.
Melia, the yellow crit, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I've played around with that, especially since yellow has less options. And for regular Titans, I don't know. I'll say the jury's still out. I'm actually was trying to test something independently in beta about caps, where like people years ago theorized that the defense down capped at around a 70%. And I started it and it was inconclusive in terms of figuring out, because there's that old example, right? If you stack like, was it Jackal, Mist, and a defense down, it appears that there's a cap somewhere when you add that third one, right? So I've been trying to figure that out on my own without any luck, but I would hypothesize that there might be some situations where Brienne would get close to the cap or at the cap, and then you have the lower attack stat. So with Fog on regular Titans, with Fog at I think -60, and I'm using Marcel because I don't have Frigg. I would guess, but it's not conclusive yet, that you're already probably near the cap.
Okay.
But I definitely want. Yeah, that's a common question and argument, and I am curious. That's something I'm trying to figure out the answer to. But it's harder when you're testing the tiles instead of the specials.
Sure. And then I see your next team here. It's a variation on your ice team, but you're throwing Norns in. So
yeah.
How are you using crazy Norns?
My very worst Mythic Titan performance was the very first green one. I don't have Mariana or Mariana costume or Zenobia, or it's just basically like the standard team. Everybody would run out except with Mickey instead of Wukong. And I just did terrible. I got like 800th for a single hit, and all my other ones are like, my worst ones around 200, and most of them were in the top 100. So I got Norns shortly after that, and it was an insta max for me because I wanted to improve that color in particular.
Yeah, she really shines there for sure. And then the Holy team, no big surprises here. Again, Mickey, Vivica for the defense down, Custom Viv, and then Guardian, Jackal, and then Inari and Poseidon.
Yeah, that's my worst color. So I may shake it up and try some different things. Well, worst color, I've never broken 100 on that color. So I may try Ranveer, may experiment with some different things. And I did try Melia and was able to keep her alive in a 2.5-minute fight on one of the later Mythic Titan hits, and it was a solid hit. So I'll have to rethink that, or maybe even just put more emblems on Nari. I believe she still is the highest attack yellow. I think, not counting, if not the highest, she's up there.
All right.
In terms of tile damage.
Now you have I'll tell you another reason I would prefer Ranveer over Mickey here, and this is just because of my fat fingers. I don't screw up which color I'm selecting with the scrolls. There are so many times I've selected Mickey on the wrong team, and that just, again, you want to throw the phone. It's like,
Yeah, I could definitely see that, especially if it's in that position where you're used to like muscle memory, like pressing the same spot. I could definitely see that.
So now your dark team, again, Mickey, Guardian, Panther for elemental defense down, Tibertus defense down, Regard for attack up, and Jabberwock. Now, I'm surprised. Do you not have Cheshire Cat?
I do. I it's the emblems. I prioritize taking Krampus to 20 over embleming Cheshire Cat, and there was another one I picked up. Oh, Marcel. I needed Marcel day to day because Buddy's attack is so low, and I didn't have Frigg that I wanted to emblem him. So he's on the list, and I think I have probably 330, 350. So I'm getting to where I could. I'm almost there.
Yeah, I'm very pleased with Cheshire Cat. I'll tell you, and I don't regret embleming Cheshire because in 4-star events, if they have an annoying tank, it's also a good way to quickly move the board, and I can put a more favorable tank in the spot.
I did get Karnov during villains, so he'll be ready for the next one, and that'll be a big upgrade.
Nice. Congrats on that. That's huge.
Yeah.
All right. So you've been top Global 1 a few times, and you completed a personal goal to get to Global Top 10 with every possible team composition. So this is kind of cool with Mono, 3-2, Rainbow, 3-1-1, and 2-2-1. That is pretty cool.
Yeah, I figured almost everybody you have on has been to Global 1, so that wasn't interesting. But I finished that not too long ago. I did Rainbow the longest ago, so it would be the first one to be due back. I did Rainbow like way back in the Guinevere era. But I want to try some other things like no direct damage, which was a fun one, but it took forever.
No doubt. No doubt.
It was working so well, and I think I got like 6th or 7th with no direct damage, and then the matches started taking like 7 minutes, full minutes, and if you run into Leidenbrock, running Vera, you get like 50 turns in a row of her heal. So, but I did like to do that. A lot of, and I've seen it on most of your interviews and other videos where people are very passionate about certain formations and loadouts. So I wanted to
play it all.
Yeah, make sure that I'm proficient in as many as I can.
So as somebody who has done this with all of the formations, Mono, 3-2, Rainbow, 3-1-1, 2-2-1. I'm not seeing 4-1 on your list. Have you done 4-1?
Yeah.
All right. So as somebody who's done that, is it fair to say your attack strategy does not matter? RNG can screw you either way.
It can. It seems, and I always am careful when I don't have evidence of something like hard evidence. It feels like lighter stacks have less variance, but I don't know if that's statistically true. Sure. But no, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't think it magically changes the board just because you pick a color.
Yeah, no, me too. I don't believe any of the hype, but I do believe no matter what strategy you choose, the board can just screw you. That it's just a hard board, and I'm telling you.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think a lot will depend on the heroes too. Like, I think I get in an argument about Grimble once a week, but if you have Grimble Alfric, or the new purple guy, the new purple hero you got in Alfric, you're in a much better spot to run a lighter stack. Same with like Scotty, you can create those teams that are more suited for 2-1-1-1 or even Rainbow.
Absolutely. All right, so other interesting statistics for you. You have a record of 29 consecutive war wins.
One-shots, wins.
One-shots. Sorry, well, that's what I meant. 29 consecutive one-shots. That is pretty outrageous.
Yeah. I the only thing I can attribute it to is I get a little bit softer than most people. I've seen when our alliance is full, it's 100, 200 spots below where your friend Spock's alliance is. Mm-hmm. And I've seen him do similar things. And obviously there's still some skill and synergy and team composition and all that. But I think a lot of it's softer, and I'm very, very, very well set up for rush in terms of I'm not one of those guys who just leveled every single fast hero out of the gate. Um, I couldn't take on what you probably took on and ascended at, like, I couldn't do 6 Alfred double revive taunt, but
Yeah.
I could probably do 5 Alfred single revive taunt. I just, I'm sorry about that.
Yep, you're fine. So, and you've twice gone undefeated in tournaments. That's pretty awesome. I've done that once. Now, what star level were those tournaments? Do you remember which events they were?
One was 4-star buff booster for sure, which is probably the easiest one because the defense, well, in my opinion, because the defense is so passive. The other one might have also been 4-star buff booster. I'm trying to think back because it was a while ago. But yeah, that's definitely the easiest one. I mean, that's one, if you go 24-1 with a C defense, you might not get 1%. So right. That's, I would assume the second one was also that as well.
All right. So for kind of a last point of conversation here, and I'll preface this by saying, and I'm sure you already know if you watch the videos, that I'm not a fan of hero grades.
Yeah.
But you have your own system that you work through when a new hero comes out. You want to talk a little bit about that? I'm not going to show the Excel that you sent me. I appreciate you sharing that, but it's going to be a little complex for the video to show. But if you can just kind of give us a rundown of what's your strategy when you see these new heroes, and how do you?
Sure. So I cut it back a lot because of the pace of new heroes, and it was just taking so long. But the general gist of it was I'd go into beta and do 10 to 50 raids, depending on the hero, more for hero of the month, because more people are likely to get the hero of the month. And then I'd go read all the beta forum comments on it, and then all the regular pre-release forum comments on it. From there, release would happen. I'd reread all the forum posts that are public, watch content creators. I still am against the card readers, and just based on this process, you know why, based on the effort that I think I put into it compared to the card readers. But then I'd put them in that spreadsheet that I sent you where it ranks them all by everything, basically comparable, every hero at once with some advanced metrics, and then special damage if applicable. So one of the biggest things when heroes come out is special looks great, and you're like, well, how does that compare to X that already exists? So it answers that question, and I write it up and put it in the Alliance chat and post it online, and then occasionally it gets distributed outside the Alliance. But the whole process takes, not even counting the gameplay and the content consumption from like your test drive videos and stuff like that, because that's honestly the shortest part, is that watching other people play, because it's not that much. 3, 4, 5 hours for one hero, and I try to create a grade based on all that. And I will say I see all the points about hero grades, and the reason why I started doing it was because I felt that the other ones are not adequate. Now, there's definitely a point to be made on how do you grade a hero like Grimble or Mickey or Uraeus, or the ones that are more singular in their usage. But for a mid-level alliance like where I'm at, there isn't, there might be a question of like, should I actually level, say, Shot or Quintus?
Right.
That might be a legitimate question for someone who's starting out, and they might not know. But I also include, what they're good at, and I tried real hard to make it an anti-card reader thing, because those frustrate me too. And people see it, or they see something on Facebook and they come in and they have a misconception, and I just try to lay it all out and explain it as well as I can, not just read the card, and have a math approach, which is important, I think.
Yeah, nothing makes me laugh more than when I see a card reader say that a hero is no good, and then they're on 30% of the teams that are in the top 100 in a raid tournament. It's like they're obviously doing something wrong.
When Hannah came out, I about had a heart attack because one of the card readers gave Hannah like C+, and I'm sitting there like, I'm like, man, this hero was really good in beta testing. Like, this is gonna be a thing, or at least maybe not. I didn't think she would be full meta, admittedly, but like she is pretty much now with Elizabeth. But you know, I saw that and I was like, oh gosh. Like,
Yep, I'm with you. All
but
right. Any last words about your alliance? What do people need to do to get in? Are you guys open? Are you interested in new
yeah, we've
players?
had a lot of retirements. Most of our line IDs are the same. Our leader, Rodman, his line ID is the same. My line ID is the same. Or you can just stop by and say, hey, we saw Empire and Puzzles books video, and
There you
you
go.
know, but yeah, obviously mid-level alliances struggle to recruit at times, and
Sure.
so we're full, and then we fell down with a couple retirements, and now we're in like 24
All
of
right.
30.
Well, maybe we can get you some new members from this video. Hope it works out for you. We're going to go ahead and end this video with some of your Mythic Titan hits so people can check those out. Anything you want them to look for as they watch your video?
There's always going to be mistakes when I rewatch these. It's painful sometimes because I think I could have gotten a lot better. But like with the challenge events, whenever something goes well, it looks simpler than it is. You know, it's really easy to see like a 20 combo and be like, well, he's just so lucky.
Yep.
But I think I have been pretty consistent in a high variance style of gameplay. So I guess enjoy.
All right. Excellent. Well, I appreciate your time. It was a pleasure talking to you, Justin. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thanks. Great meeting you.